Hey there, this is Andrew Osta, and I'm gonna talk about rookie mistakes that I see when beginner painters paint with me in my studio. Number one is values, and they get their values wrong and they stick to middle values. There's a certain fear to go into darker darks and lighter highlights. They stay in the middle, in this gray area between light and dark, and it turns out to be muddy, uninteresting, uh, lacking contrast, and just kind of dull and dead. Another mistake I see is especially people who went to art school. In art school, you're taught techniques, you're taught about light source, you're taught about different kind of things that everybody else also knows. You're taught it's a generic, unfortunately, a generic education that where everybody learns the same things. And in order to succeed as an artist, which is a highly individualistic profession, you gotta have your own style. You gotta be instantly recognizable. You gotta look at that and say, "That's Andrew Osta. Nobody else does that. Only I do that." And that's not just the one style that I do. I do other styles that people can instantly recognize and say, "That's Andrew Osta." If you don't have that, and you're not going to get that from school, you're not going to get that from a generic education, you're going to have to discover your own style. So how do you discover your own style? Well, you can definitely practice copying and practice copying and stealing and borrowing ideas from other artists that you like. But sometimes what school can teach you is technique, but a school cannot teach you good taste. It cannot teach you good taste. If you don't have good taste in art, you're not gonna succeed. I mean, you might succeed with people who have poor taste like you do, but it helps to have good taste. So taste is a personal thing that nobody can teach you, and it's like if you don't have a concept of taste in art or taste in music or taste in food, like if you're a chef and your taste palette is dead and you can't taste, sweet from salty, you don't know the subtleties of anything, you can't be a chef. That's just not that's not your function. That's not what you should be doing. Same for musicians. If you tone deaf and you're trying to play, classical piano or something, forget it, or violin, forget it. So with art, it's the same thing. It's like you can draw and you can paint even, but you gotta have taste. If you got no taste, if you have poor taste, if you have poor decision making as to if you got nothing to say and you're just copying pictures from a phone, it's not your vocation. Okay. Now, another thing, when you're working, especially in oils are very slow drying. You gotta have an idea of what you're gonna do, or if you don't have an idea, then you gotta be an expert improviser. What I mean by that, it's like a jazz musician. A really good jazz musician can just improvise over a certain harmonic backdrop and will have no problem. But a beginner cannot improvise, especially over difficult chords, especially when you don't recognize the patterns. It's the same with painting. You cannot improvise if you're just a beginner painter. You gotta make your little study of whatever you want to do. Make a study. Don't mess around with it. Don't change it a million times. If you're gonna paint a red wall and whatever, paint the red wall. Don't repaint the red wall blue. Leave it red. Set that aside. If you don't like it, pick up another little piece of paper or a little piece of canvas. Do another little study. Change the wall to blue. See how you like that. You don't like that? Well, change another. Keep doing it until you find the composition that works for you. Then paint it. In acrylic, you can paint the composition, let it dry, and paint it over. In oil, if you've painted a shadow here, and then you decide that you don't want the shadow, you want it to be a highlight, it's a mess, man. You cannot just in one session suddenly put the highlight there. It's gonna look stupid. All your colors are gonna get muddy and milky and filmy, and it's gonna be a poor painting. So if you're working in oil, unless you're good, don't improvise. Do little studies, figure out what you want to do, and then paint it larger. Because this is it's a common mistake. Also, when you're doing this kind of repainting, when you've messed up, or you thought you were going to do a highlight, and then you decided it's going to be a shadow, and you thought you were going to put a tree there, and then you decided no, it's not going to be a tree there. It's going to be daytime. It's going to be nighttime. It's going to be whatever. The more of that you do on the painting, the worse it looks, because it looks like you're indecisive. It looks like you don't know what you're doing. If you know how to draw, just lay down your colors with confidence in your lines, and let the viewer see what you're doing. Let them appreciate that you did 1, 2, 3, maybe you did 5 strokes and you painted something and it looks good. Perfect. You don't need to spend an hour, you don't need to spend a week doing something. If you can get it right quickly, that's better. It's like Van Gogh, it's immediate. Boom. It's immediate, and it's truthful, and it's honest. And the more you blend it and fix it and change it, it's like putting on makeup. More makeup on a girl's face. Like, if your face is beautiful to begin with, just leave it natural. Leave it at that. You don't need a bunch of makeup. A bunch of makeup is to cover up things that you don't like about yourself. And it's the same with painting. If it's not, if it looks good with a few strokes, quickly done, and it's just right, leave it. That's better than reworking it endlessly and having a blended and blah look to it. Another thing, don't sit there with your phone looking at pictures for inspiration. There's a number of problems with that approach. One, you paint something from one picture, it's taken from one angle, and you paint another object from another picture that's taken from another angle, and you're trying to do realism, or at least trying to make it make sense. There's going to be discrepancies between your first picture and your second picture. It's going to look incorrect. It's going to subconsciously, whoever's looking at your picture is going to pick that up, that element doesn't go with that element. That you picked that from here, you picked that from there, you picked something else from somewhere else. And you put them all together, and it's not the same angle, it's not the same light, and it's not the same color contrast, and it doesn't work. And I see that a lot, even painters who are pretty good, they do a commission, they paint a landscape, and then they take a figure, and they stick that figure into the landscape, and you can tell that the lighting on the landscape and on the figure is completely different. It's a completely different light. You copied the landscape from a photograph, you copied a portrait from another photograph, and you got a different light. You got outdoor lighting, here you got indoor lighting, here you got the light coming from here you got the light coming from there. And when you're painting realism, that's just going to mess it up. And that's not even mentioning that you can't be in the flow as a painter. You can't be in that magical moment where you're just in the flow and you're an instrument for something higher when you're staring at your little screen and you're trying to copy a picture. That staring at this little screen and trying to copy, that will always bring down the quality of your work, 100% of the time. So what you want to do is, you want to study a picture, study it, and then maybe make a little study, a little drawing or something, and then go ahead and leave your phone and get painting. And don't try to copy an image from your phone. Those images are distorted. The photograph is distorted. The phone distorts it more. The colors are wrong. Everything's wrong. Don't do that. If you want to copy something, copy it from life. That's the only way to copy. Copying from life. Do not copy from photos. Now, another thing. My studio assistant, I ask him, why do you paint? He paints to sell. Never paint to sell. I told him, look, I sold 1,000 paintings. I've sold 1,000 paintings. Guess how many of those paintings I've sold thinking when I was working on the painting, I'm going to sell this, I'm going to make a lot of money with this. None. Because every time I think about selling the painting and I think about money, the magic of the painting goes away. Then I'm becoming a commercial painter. I'm becoming somebody who's just doing a craft, a job to make money. There's no magic, there's no soul, there's nothing special in that. And as soon as you start focusing on money, at least in my case, I make a mistake and I ruin a painting. Even if it was a good painting, it gets ruined. That's just how it happens with me. Okay? So I never recommend anybody painting for money, but if you want to make money painting, you can. And if you want to make money painting, here's what you got to do. If you want to be a commercial painter, you got to work as fast as possible, make it as large as possible, and then sell it as cheap as you can, but to as many people as you can. You got to find a subject that appeals to everybody. It might be something stupid. It might be something relevant to today's society, something that people, I don't know, Taylor Swift or Bad Bunny or Donald Trump or whatever you want to do, and just keep doing it, keep doing it, large, simple, quick, and you'll probably sell it, and you'll probably make some money, and you're a commercial artist. If you want to get into your soul and you want to find out who you are and you want to find out your own style and you want to get a spiritual, some kind of fulfillment from your work as a painter, then that's not your approach. Then your approach is experimentation until you find yourself. And then you want to try to express yourself more and more and more and more profoundly until everybody knows that that's who you are. And that expresses itself in your subject, in your colors, in everything, in the harmony of your painting. And I told my studio assistant friend, nobody ever comes out of, nobody's ever gotten famous by painting the same thing everybody else paints and not breaking your rules and just following the rules and being taught in art school, this is what you do, and then you follow those rules, and you're going to be a famous painter? No, you might be a commercial painter. You're not going to be a breakthrough of any kind. You're not going to be the next Van Gogh or the next Picasso because they broke rules, or the next Matisse, or the next Dali, or the next Chagall. They all broke the rules. Modigliani. Think of a great artist. Like, everybody's broken rules. I mean, except, back in the day, in the Renaissance and whatever, you had to be very strictly following some kind of ideals of beauty and style. So you got to have originality, and people want original art. They want artists who have something to say, and they want artists who are not afraid to say what they have to say. That means painting with bold strokes, with confidence, not middle tone, grayish, and I'm not sure, and change this and change that. I don't even know what I want to say. I just want to sell it. No, that's not how it works. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my Patreon, Andrew Osta on Patreon. Check out my website, andrewosta.com. Buy some of my paintings. And if I get some new Patreon subscribers, and send me an email, let me know, I'll make more of these videos for you. I need to know that somebody wants to see them. I don't like just talking into empty space. I like communication with another person, and I can help somebody become a better painter because I've been doing it for over 20 years, 22 years now. Peace.